Remember when it was just an idea and a dream, and then now we're here, like...
It has been hard, but at the same time, I feel like we're built for it. WNBA has been in front of it for a long time.
Now people are seeing our work. You're also playing for a bigger purpose. Even though you're out there playing basketball, you have Brianna Taylor's name on our back of our uniforms. We have the Black Lives Matter on the court.
People don't realize the difference between like activism, activists, and organizers. And like, we're organizers. Activism is like bringing light to an issue, talking about it. Like, it's not fluff, but it's like, you know, raise awareness. Like, you should vote. Organizing is that shirt. Like, organizing is getting behind a candidate. Organizing is, hey, texting, talking about the anthem. Y'all coming out, you staying in, let's do this. Like, organizing is hard effing work. Like, there's a reason people don't sign up to be organizers.
Breaking news overnight, a police officer shooting a black man multiple times.
Jacob Blake isn't the first, and unfortunately, he won't be the last. We know the countless other names that have fallen victim to police brutality. There's a fear as a black American every time you get into a car, the same fear I have now driving this car.
Washington Mystics point guard Natasha Cloud chose to opt out of the 2020 season to focus on social justice reform rather than defend her title.
We're not only athletes. When we take that uniform off, we are black. It was the hardest decision I've made in my career. Not only are we coming off a championship season, I'm coming off my own personal best season. I'm the point guard for the team. I am the vocal leader for our team. So I felt a lot of guilt with my decision to opt out simply because I felt I was letting my family down. But I didn't feel I could be a champion in the bubble trying to win a championship for the Mystics while also being 100% committed to my community. I wanted to be 2 feet in and not 1 foot in, 1 foot out.
Crowds of demonstrators in multiple cities getting more violent following the death of George Floyd.
Brianna Taylor was shot 8 times while she slept in her bed in Louisville.
One of the non-negotiables right away from pretty much every player's mouth was that the season had to be geared around social justice.
We are dedicating this season to Breonna Taylor, an outstanding EMT who was murdered over 130 days ago in her home. We are also dedicating this season to Say Her Name campaign. We will be a voice for the voiceless. For so long, white people or straight people was like, well, that's cool, but it's not my issue. And now we realize, like, it's my neighbor's issue, it's my issue. It's all of our issue to care.
We're not the most popular league, and sometimes we might not do the things that's popular within the social construct, but we make it known what we feel, who we are, what we represent, and use our voices, create the change, say her name.
And they do this not just on the court, not just on their jerseys, but by establishing a social justice council, one of the first leagues to do it. By educating themselves, hosting regular Zoom calls with the likes of Stacey Abrams and Tamika Palmer, Breonna Taylor's mother.
Hit home. She was just loving and caring and hardworking, and she loved family. She loved to uplift people around her.
I want to say to you, Ms. Palmer, everything that we're doing, we're planting these seeds because justice will happen.
Ms. Palmer, we will not stop. We will go hard for Brianna, and just know that we're gonna scream her name, and I'm so proud to have her name on the back of my jersey.
It's hard to even put into words how it affected me and how it changed me, and it changed us as a league of the WNBA.
We are dedicated and committed to this because we could be Brianna.
Continue to use your platforms and your beautiful voices. Just know how grateful we are to be in this fight with you.
No parent should ever have to go through that. Simply because of the pigment of their children's skin. Sorry.
This was the first conversation of the Social Justice Council. With the jersey, we needed to engage with Ms. Palmer to get her permission to do this. That was a blessing.
That's why you saw the WNBA go in and play this season and dedicated the season to Say Her Name. Because far too often, again, Black women are super vulnerable. We're not protected, we're not taken care of, we're forgotten in a lot of senses. It's been exhausting to have to constantly be vulnerable with people and to try to explain my feelings as a Black woman in America. Again, we talk about Colin Kaepernick, Before he took a knee, the Minnesota Lynx were already protesting.
I can't think of a bigger moment than in 2016. It felt different.
Another fatal police shooting, a traffic stop turned deadly, caught on tape, igniting anger and concern about police use of force.
No justice, no peace. We had woken to the Philando Castile shooting. Baton Rouge had happened a couple nights before, and I knew that was painful for Simone.
You know, the killing of Philando and Alton. Alton, for me, was one that really hit home because I was a block away from the home that I grew up in. Like the corner store that he was killed at, that's a store that I frequent. You know, that could have been anyone, any friend, classmate, family member.
Didn't care about the shoot-around, didn't care about the game that night. At what point, do we say we don't accept that? I coach that way. You get what you accept, and it really felt like we just were in this space of continuing to accept police brutality against Black communities.
I just remember Coach Reeve was just really disturbed by the recent events, and she asked, what would we like to do?
So we decided to make the shirts that says, "Change starts with us," because we wanted to be at the forefront of things, and we knew that in anything in life, if you want to create some change, then it has to start with you. What is happening now is not new. Racism and unjust is very real.
It's very scary when you think that you are starting it, like the first person to open your mouth and say, no, this isn't right. At the time, the league president was trying to fine us for wearing the shirts.
I feel like that was the first time that we all came together as a group and said, hey, we're going to do this, we're united in this, and we need to make sure that we stand together.
And then immediately you could tell that it hit, I think it impacted every team. They made it okay for the rest of us to start to use our voices, to start to speak out.
But the movement would not be without a personal cost, as Indiana Fever's Tamika Catchings found out firsthand.
Wow, consequences, I don't even know where to start. For me personally, I got death threat. I had a cop car parked outside my house for 7 days. At first I was scared, and then I got mad. And then I kind of came to a peacefulness about it where it's like, okay, like people are actually paying attention.
Nearly a year later, the LA Sparks took action during the WNBA Finals, motivated after a Charlottesville rally that turned deadly and ongoing racial tension and debate around the NFL and the national anthem.
In what they term a display of unity, the LA Sparks have decided to remain in the locker room during today's national anthem.
That's probably my most proud memory as a WNBA player. It was literally the biggest stage that a player would want to ever play on, and here we are in the locker room discussing not just whether or not we were going to be out there for the anthem, but also what that meant individually and collectively. And for us to just come to the decision of we have each other's backs, and everyone eventually said, whatever you do, I'm going to do.
Minnesota Lynx star Maya Moore sat out the 2019 season to focus on overturning the wrongful conviction of Jonathan Irons. With Moore's help, he was released after 22 years in prison, and they married in 2020.
I just really wanted to show up for things that I felt were mattering more than being a professional athlete.
Hold it.
Just take it.
Nice.
It's tough because you don't sign up for this with being an athlete, but it's a responsibility that we inherit. It's a responsibility to use our platforms and our voices for our communities, for the voiceless, to amplify their voices.
Tension between players and Senator Kelly Loeffler, the Georgia Republican and a co-owner of the Atlanta Dream, is continuing to grow.
One of the co-owners of the Atlanta Dream, who's also a senator in Georgia, came out and was very much against us as a league, promoting Black Lives Matter and essentially saying to stick to sports. I feel like that's the easiest way. Shut up and dribble, that whole vibe.
We realized that Reverend Warnock was running in her U.S. Senate seat, and it would be very strategic to have a chance to support him.
And so we got to know him. We had Zoom calls. He shared his beliefs. He understood the position we were in. He supported us fully, and so we wanted to give him our support.
Well, today we saw both teams arrive to the arena, many of the players wearing a shirt that said, "Vote Warnock."
I think this is just a great way to connect those dots between social justice and getting out and voting.
the Vote Warnock message was delivered. And the season continued when just 22 days later, another police shooting brought the sports world to a standstill.
The major developing story in sports, teams in the NBA have made the decision to boycott tonight's games in response to the shooting of Jacob Blake Jr. in Wisconsin.
Despite the overwhelming plea for change, there has been no action. So our focus today cannot be on basketball.
Jacob Blake shook us all back to our core, the same as George Floyd did and Breonna Taylor. For us, it was, okay, when do we do something drastic?
We need to understand that these moments are so much more bigger than us. If we do this unified as a league, it looks different.
The day of the game, I had wrote Ariel a little earlier, and I said, have you even talked about sitting out today? She was like, we don't really feel like playing, but it hasn't been something that we've discussed. We haven't heard other teams discuss it. I was yelling on FaceTime. I was like, Maisha, take the Mystics back to the locker room, because you can get peer pressured into making decisions. And so they finally all went back to the locker room. They sat down, they talked about it, and they were just like, we're not playing. We're not gonna be pressured into playing because we know this is right. We feel it in our souls, we feel it in our gut that this is the right decision moving forward. And so Ariel Atkins stepped up big, she put her foot down, and she told everyone from union to president to commissioner to the other teams, the Mystics aren't playing.
Washington was going to play Atlanta as scheduled, but the Washington Mystics held out, and there will be no WNBA games tonight.
It is important to note that this is not a strike. This is not a boycott. This is affirmatively a day of reflection. If you're watching or listening and you understand the humanity in the movement for Black lives, and you recognize that your voice matters, do not remain idle.
This isn't just about basketball. We aren't just basketball players, and just because we are basketball players doesn't mean that's our only platform. We need to understand that when most of us go home, we still are Black.
I get choked up about it now because you see her growth. And honestly, but you see her growth. I just watched ESPN2, and I am in tears. I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of our team, but I'm extremely, extremely proud of you and your voice and your growth and your ability to stand up when you needed to, when people told you no. I am beyond amazed and proud of you for taking this stand, and I'm thankful for you because this is what we are fighting for. You see, during this heavy time, men and women stepping up for each other. You see athletes putting their lives on the line. So I'm extremely proud of Ariel. You got me freaking crying. Hey. Extremely proud.
The conversation that we wanted to start in 2016 is now being had.
Minnesota, the thing on their shirt, change starts with us. And that's kind of the full circle I think it's come.
I think the most important thing that has happened through amplifying our voices is that we are all one voice.
It re-motivates me to see people out here fighting the same fight I'm fighting. If they can be out here on the streets, then there's no damn reason that I'm not using the platform that God gave me. So don't only speak about change, be about change. Show up.
You know, this league is incredible in the ways that we support each other. The things that could divide so many people is what brings this league together.
And it's not just an initiative, it's not just a campaign. This is a lifestyle. Like, this is something that the WNBA is committed to now, but will forever be committed to.
All they want to do is talk about the fact that we're women, that we're Black, and that we're gay. That's all people want to talk about. So we've had to defend ourselves. And so the irony of people asking us now, telling us now to stick to sports, it's like, we would have loved to. Nobody has allowed us. And so here we are. We've been doing this. This is no different than any other time in our league. It happens to be now, right? It happens to be in this moment that the world has caught up with us, not the other way around.
In this time that America desperately needs hope and heroes, they're finding it in us.